not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
All of us need to be reminded that the federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government.
Had to change the light bulb today. I put in a nice incandescent bulb, which I stock up on a weekly basis. What is coming down the pike, I don't want to alarm people, because again, people in the truth movement get demonized for being alarmists, and you're just freaking people out. But no, it's really coming, and I don't know if it's weeks or months, but the economic collapse is going to come. They're lying to us about liquidity. It is true that the corporations are holding $1.7 million, trillion dollars of cash that they could use to start the economy going again, but they're not doing it because of the uncertainty in the markets and the dollar. China is calling for a new world currency. I mean, things are really amiss. And this is not like, you know, most people are just going along with their lives. They don't understand what's going on. And if you're looking at this and you think I'm an idiot and you don't think I know what I'm talking about, go ahead. Just keep going on with your life. Keep going out to the bars every night, drinking, having a good time, you know, forgetting about your troubles, forgetting about your, you know, your unemployment, or forgetting about your status at work or whatever it is, or if you are gainfully employed, you know, wrapped up in your own little world. Okay? There is a financial collapse that's literally on the horizon, and you think the media and the globalists are going to allow the people to really know that it's coming? You know, it's just going to happen, like a $600 plunge in the market. Okay? It's just going to happen. But it is happening slowly, gradually. You know, they lie. They say we were out of this recession in 2009, yet we lost 117,000 jobs, or 17,000 jobs, again, for a period of quarters, which brings us back into a recession. It's not a double-dip recession. It is a depression. We're in it. We're stuck in it, and it's not going to get any better. If you have a job, thank the Lord, and work hard. And realize that people out there are going to be struggling. It's going to be serious. It's going to be like that. It's going to be that situation where you're talking about real unemployment numbers. The real unemployment number in America right now is about 20%. In California, it's close to 30%. They do not factor in people that have lost their benefits. They do not factor in people who have stopped looking because because it's just been 2 years and there's no jobs and there's nothing. They get out of the market. They don't even look for a job. They're not counting on any of these people. They only count on the folks that are actually on benefits. Once you're off benefits, you don't count. Does that mean you got a job? No. So the real truth, Gerald Chalenti from Trends Research in Kingston, New York, one of the most renowned trends researchers, has all the details on this, and it is absolutely true. We are close to over 20%, and close to 30% in the state of California. Things are not rosy. They keep saying that's why the markets aren't really moving. They're not really going to move. You have a worldwide implosion by the globalists. They've put this in place. Now, to get down to the root of this, I just wanted to make a couple of points. How history always repeats itself in many, many forms. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, false flag, came out as a false flag. If you haven't paid attention that the government lies, or if it doesn't matter to you or you don't care about it, imagine that the government was coming into your house, okay, with a sharp knife, and they rape your children, okay? then they cut their throats. Then they rape your grandmother. And then they make you watch as they rape and murder your spouse. Okay? That's what's happening. Imagine it that way. These people are killers. They're murderers. They're sociopaths. And I'm going to show you direct proof of these sociopaths and their own talkings. People, their own words, recorded. Nixon, Kissinger. Like children, crazy children with mad power like Nero. I mean, it really is insane. These people are out of their minds. And their agenda is put forth and the ideas put into their ears and their campaign contributions and their pledges are leading us to a world government that'll make Hitler look like like the government of Switzerland, which is like if anyone could afford to live in Switzerland, that's the place to live, where freedom and liberty really counts, where they actually check to make sure that you know how to hide your weapons, where you can have anything that you need, where they realize that the reason that you have weapons, not the psyop to take your weapons from you, okay? You need to get rid of weapons to protect you so the police can protect you. That is insane. The whole concept is that you have a right to bear arms for self-protection. What if the police can't get there in time? And then the whole other end of the spectrum, and the propaganda from that end, and the propaganda from the neocons. The left-right paradigm is destroying America. It is enslaving us through the Federal Reserve System as far as the monetary, but sociologically and psychologically, they are actually controlling our thought processes, the way that we perceive things through the media, through mind control, many projects, Project Mockingbird. I mean, it goes on and on through the CIA. These things are on record. We really are under mind control. That's why, you know, only a small amount of people vote. I mean, I woke up to this. There's a reason for me saying this. I'm not doing this for my health. Okay? I'm not doing this to alienate my friends. I'm not doing this for any personal gain at all. There's zero. I have absolutely no financial benefit in doing this, no personal benefit. You know, all I want is for people to research what I say, what I report, that it's true. And once you find out it's true, if you're an American, if you're a human being with a soul, you'll spread the message like I do. God bless you. Now please take the time to watch the following footage of Daniel Ellsberg's film, The Most Dangerous Man in America.
It was the evening of October 1st, 1969, when I first smuggled several hundred pages of top-secret documents out of my safe at the Rand Corporation. The study contained 47 volumes, 7,000 pages. My plan was to Xerox the study and reveal the secret history of the Vietnam War to the American people.
The FBI was trying to find out who gave the New York Times a copy of the Pentagon's secret study.
How, like a thunderclap, you get the New York Times publishing the Pentagon Papers, and the country is panicking.
This is an attack on the whole integrity of government. If whole file cabinets can be stolen and then made available to the press, you can't have orderly government anymore.
A name has now come out as the possible source of the Times Pentagon documents. It is that of Daniel Ellsberg, the top policy analyst for the Defense and State Departments.
I think it is time in this country to quit making national heroes out of those who steal secrets and publish them in the newspaper.
In the first year of marriage, we're talking about him going to prison for the rest of his life.
Wouldn't you go to prison to tell Sunday war?
We felt so strongly that we were dealing with a national security crisis. Henry Kissinger said that Dr. Daniel Ellsberg was the most dangerous man in America, and he had to be stopped.
He gave me a number of the papers to read, and as I was reading it, I was horrified by the coldness, the calculatedness, and in particular the language of the torturers. They were quotes saying, "We'll give the North Vietnamese one more turn of the screw," or "let's try the water drop technique." And I was thinking, what is this? How can the leaders of our country be talking in this language?
Because they are evil.
Misleading the American public.
Because they are the deceivers.
And then I just started to cry.
The New World Order.
Because I knew that
the minions
he really had to get them out.
Global elite.
And so there were tears in my eyes, and I came out and I just said,
or even worse.
You should not cooperate with evil.
The Pentagon Papers drama changed abruptly into the Pentagon Papers media freakout and cameraman's farce as the documents arrived at the Senate.
I think Dan was disappointed in that he may have expected too much from the publication of the papers. He may have expected that the publication of the papers would create a greater sensation than it did. Of course, it created a sensation.
Where is Mr. Ellsberg? I hope he's in jail.
But I think he was disappointed in the fact that the substance of the papers, the content of the papers, did not seem to be absorbed by the public.
Mind control. They focused on...
I gave up my job.
The treason. Meanwhile, they're the treasonous ones.
On a gamble. If the American people knew the truth about how they had been lied to, about the myths that had led them to endorse this butchery for 25 years, that they would choose against it. And the risk that you take when you do that is that you'll learn something ultimately about your fellow citizens that you won't like to hear. And that is that they hear it, they learn from it, they understand it, and they proceed to ignore it.
I feel that we all take the dice off now. I think the last round people got thrown out of no, I'd rather see your mom. That's your mom. I just want you to think big, Henry, for Christ's sake.
I remember speaking about a year ago and expressing the hope that we would end this war before we had dropped another 1 million tons of bombs on the Vietnamese. Well, that hope has been disappointed.
We could never get into the paper the very fact that we had reported the bombing tonnage. They didn't even go so far as to say, the Ellsbergs have this funny habit in every daily press conference of saying, here's how many bombs we dropped last week.
We've dropped another 200,000 tons of bombs on Indochina. That's 10 Hiroshimas. 1 Hiroshima a week.
They never even mentioned we'd said it, let alone reflect on the fact that it was happening. When I knew we were going to bomb Vietnam forever, that was like bombing the neighborhood. The people there were more than pictures for me, and they were more than numbers.
When we went to select our jury, we brought in an expert, actually a psychiatrist. He told us we were defending 2 young men, bright, high achievers, men with a future, who were willing to risk it all for the sake of not themselves or their own careerist interests, but for the sake of a principle. And the psychiatrist said to us, You don't want on this jury men of middle age, because these are people who in the course of their lives might possibly have sacrificed principle for the sake of career, for the sake of family, and they lived with that compromise, and they will have a lot of disdain, even contempt, for two men who did it for the sake of principle and took the risk.
In Los Angeles today, Daniel Ellsberg returned to the witness stand in the Pentagon Papers case, and for the first time, the chief defendant spelled out how he changed from hawk to dove on the Vietnam War.
When I was on the stand for 4.5 days, I actually recalled this particular incident in 1966 when I came on a burning village. That it was burning because our Vietnamese troops had fired on it, and in the course of that I saw some kids picking through the embers of their huts for a little plastic doll. That was extremely anguishing for me to see this sad appearance. This is what the war meant to them, really, the destruction of their homes and their lives.
At the Pentagon Papers trial in California today, it was revealed that the people who burglarized the Watergate also burglarized the office of Daniel Ellsberg, psychiatrist.
Mr. Ehrlichman, are you telling me that the break-in to Dr. Fielding's office was to satisfy the President of the United States?
The President wanted very much to make sure that a thing like this could not happen again.
At no time did anyone ask, is this the right thing to do? We never looked at either the legal issues, the ethical issues, the spiritual issues. None of those things came to the level of consciousness. It was a collapse of integrity of the first order.
The revelation in the trial of the Pentagon Papers that the White House had sent the plumbers to Los Angeles really, I think, broke open the Watergate scandal. And then to top it all off, if this story needed topping, the fact that the president met with the presiding judge.
The man presiding over the Ellsberg case, Judge Matthew Byrne, today confirmed that Ehrlichman had offered him the job of FBI director.
It didn't seem possible, but there were even more sensational developments today involving the White House. An admission from the Federal Bureau of Investigation that it had listened to Daniel Ellsberg on wiretaps as long as 2 years before he released the Pentagon Papers.
Good evening. A federal judge in Los Angeles today declared a mistrial in the Pentagon Papers case. He dismissed all the charges against Daniel Ellsberg and Anthony Russo. The judge ruled that the government had so tainted its own case as to make a fair trial impossible.
A presidential prosecution that started, we now know, in order to help re-elect a president, and it's ending now, I think, to avoid impeaching that same president. But they won't stop that process because the facts, thanks in part to this trial, are out on the table. They're out of the safes, just as the Pentagon Papers are out of the safes, and they're the same kind of facts. And they can't be put back in the safes.
God bless you, Daniel.
Some way to be is make a national hero and send it off in a mistrial. New York Times gets a Pulitzer Prize for stealing documents. We're trying to get at thieves. What in the name of God have you come to?
You are absolute sociopaths. All of them. Sociopaths run our government. It's unbelievable.
Because of what Dan did, and the overreaction of an imperial president, if you will, to what had happened.
Like Bush and
it changed
Obama? The imperialist. New World Order. Can't leave Clinton out.
It was the cover-up of the Ellsberg break-in that concerned the White House. And the seeds of all of Watergate occur in the Pentagon Papers.
The greatest result of what he did was to get President Nixon out of office. That wasn't, I'm sure, any part of his expectation or his intention.
what has remained significant about the release of the Pentagon Papers is the decision by a public official to give priority to conscience as compared to career.
The fact is that secrets can be held by men in the government whose careers have been spent learning how to keep their mouths shut. I was one of those.
If you have somebody who starts with such a background within government and who understands what Dan understands about how it works from the inside, and who then continues to speak out, constantly trying to unmask the lies and reveal the truth so that people can make honest, clear decisions about their own lives and about the life of our nation, the life of the world. He is the preeminent whistleblower in the very best and broadest and deepest sense.
We as a people do have that power. The power to change ourselves and history. We are here today.
I think the resonance that I feel with Dan is that he is trying always to do what he thinks is the highest right under the circumstances, regardless of the consequences. I was not able to do that for when I worked in the government. I was too tied into the group I was working for. But Dan does that all the time.
The courage we need is not the courage, the fortitude to be obedient in the service of an unjust war, to help conceal lies, to do our job by a boss who has usurped power and is acting as an outlaw government. It is the courage at last to face honestly the truth and the reality of what we are doing in the world and act responsibly to change it.